caught in the crossfire. It's caught in the
What's up, guys? Lance, the Obscure Movie Guy, coming to you once again with another fun-filled, fact-filled video that you probably won't care about, but we're going to do it anyways, trying to change the world one post at a time. Today's video is done in partnership with Indie Horror Junkie, so be sure to go to IndieHorrorJunkie.com to check out all of their offerings. Issue number 20 of the Indie Horror Junkie magazine is currently available. $5 for a downloadable PDF, $15 for a printable copy delivered straight to your door. And then every Wednesday night, you can join the Indie Horror Junkie podcast at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. New people to talk to, new movies to go over, new stories to tell. And then coming in March of 2026 will be the Indie Horror Junkie's third annual Indie Horror Junkie Film Festival held at MegaCon in Orlando, Florida. So if you have a horror short or a horror feature film that you'd like to see can get submitted into this, email indiehorrorjunkie@gmail.com or go to filmfreeway.com to look up the Indie Horror Junkie Film Festival. Submissions are still currently open. Now let's dive into today's video. Sent to us through the Indie Horror Junkie Gmail, Thy Will Be Done.
The will of God has always been questioned. Detective Stephanie Bennett has a gift and a choice. But time is running out.
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Such a long, long way from home.
Callie Bustle, Doug Bradley, Courtney Gaze, Kurt Angle.
All these other people who died under mysterious circumstances were all homicides.
Homicides.
What you're doing is sacrilege.
You're more like your father than you know. What about this one? Tell me what you saw. Got any proof?
The punishment wouldn't fit the crime.
As long as it makes a mess so big. Only God could clean it up.
Thy Will Be Done is a 2025 film written by Michael Ferry, directed by Jas Securo, starring Jas Securo, Callie Bustle, Doug Bradley, and Kurt Angle. Tells the story of a priest who takes it upon himself to divvy out justice as he sees so fit against the patrons of his congregation. Basically believes he has the permission from God to divvy out justice. Now, while that is a semi-original storyline, it is a bit reminiscent of The Boondock Saints, one of the top 10 greatest films ever made, in my opinion, possibly even top 5. However, Thy Will Be Done, despite its similarity to Boondock Saints, it does separate itself enough from them to make it its own original idea. Very well written, very well executed. From a fundamental standpoint, the film is pretty top-notch. The production quality doesn't come off as any type of independent, low-budget, moderately budgeted film. It's great production quality, good camera quality, no audio issues, great acting, good writing, solid editing, good cinematography. So collectively, fundamentally, a very sound, very solid film. I think the beauty of this film is in the writing and in the details within that writing. So basically, you have Father Arlen, played by Jas Securo, extremely well, and we'll dive into that in a little bit. But Father Arlen, like I said, he divvies out, basically kills patrons of his congregation that he sees fit. But there's a lot of attention in the detail when you're watching some of these things. So the movie does kind of start off originally kind of like a whodunit. You see a killing, you're not really sure who's involved. Big guy dressed in black. In the first killing, if you're paying enough attention to the details, the guy that's being killed is a serial killer that's being talked about on the television. It was really well written in there. So basically you have this guy that's watching a newscast of, another killing that's happened around town, of, another young girl that's been, her body found. And basically what you're seeing is you're watching the serial killer watch the newscast of himself and then ultimately gets killed by basically Father Arlen is what it's going to turn out to be. It's not a spoiler, trust me. And I'm going to tell you why in a second. But gets killed by the father, and then the priest kind of tries to make it, tries to cover it up, make it look like it was an accident. He fell down some stairs, cut and dry, open and shut case, no big deal. And it's not until after there's a little bit more investigating into the actual crime scene that they find out, oh, holy crap, this guy was the serial killer the whole time. Now he's dead. Great. Open and shut, no big deal. It's not until the second killing where you you see that it is Father Arlen. You as the audience get that reveal pretty early on that he is the one in fact doing these things. But in the second killing, again, there's a lot of attention to the details. So basically you have this Miss Dawn who drops off some food to the father and then goes to the grocery store and she's going to buy dinner. And there's a lot of people asking about her son, like, where has he been? How's he feeling? And she's always coming up with some sort of excuse as to, oh, he's homesick or he's with, family, whatever the case may be. Turns out she had him locked in the basement of the house the whole time. Father knows this. Basically executes her, and again, trying to make it look like it was an accident. And it's not until, again, Detective Bennett, played by Callie Bustle, during her investigation of the crime scene, that they find the young boy who has been trapped in this basement for God knows how long. So it is pretty early on. It does kind of start off a little bit as a whodunit, but it does quickly transfer into who's doing it, but you get to watch this cat and mouse type game now between Detective Bennett and Father Arlen. She kind of has the, she stumbles upon these things and starts putting pieces to the puzzle together, and it's a matter, I know that you've done this. I know you're the one doing it, but how can I prove it? So we're not breaking any new barriers with this storyline. But what you are kind of getting is a collective of other storylines. So it's not, when it comes down to the detective, Bennett, again, played by Callie Bustle, and her captain, played by Doug Bradley, which, if anybody recognizes that name, he's Pinhead from Hellraiser. Also, if you're in the real heavy, like in the synth music like I am, he just did the narration for the short film music video for Gunship, Blood for the Blood God, which was also pretty cool. So check out Gunship music. But Doug Bradley, very established actor, seasoned actor, but obviously best known as Pinhead from Hellraiser. But when it comes to Bennett and the captain, their relationship, again, we're not breaking any new grounds with that storyline. We see this a lot where, captain's given, open and shut case, and she's trying to investigate it a little bit further. There's no reason to do that. She's also still dealing with the death of her father, who was a detective within the department that she was in. So, his legacy's kind of living on through her, but she's kind of dealing with some depression. So that stuff, that's not breaking any new ground. The idea of somebody being a vigilante, and in this case, the father being the vigilante. Like I said, we do kind of see that reminiscent with like Boondock Saints, even like with superheroes like Batman. You take the justice upon yourself, and even though Batman never kills anybody, he's still a vigilante at heart. So, but he's also this pastor, so he's kind of like conflicted within himself, doing these things. He sees and knows what's happening within his congregation, and I guess just couldn't sit by and watch it happen anymore with some of these people and decided to divvy out the justice himself, even though God is ultimately the ultimate judge. Wasn't happening rapid enough for Father Arlen in this case. So, like I said, you're not breaking any new grounds with these stories, but you do kind of get a collective of multiple, even though they're kind of predictable, you don't often see them put together in the same film. So that was kind of a cool take on the vigilante, the seasoned detective, kind of dealing with its own personal stuff. And it was cool seeing Doug Bradley in a film that's not necessarily, he's a police captain. He's not doing the whole horror thing. He's kind of the role reversal. He's trying to be the good guy in this case. So that was pretty cool as well. Now, as far as those character goes, they have the most screen time. Detective Bennett and Father Arlen, again played by Callie Bussell and Jasicuro. Both really good characters. Callie did a great job playing this detective. She's strong-willed. She's independent. She's kind of going against the grain with everything as far as dealing with her captain, getting evidence, kind of pursuing these cases that he kind of feels like they don't need to be pursued. She stumbles upon a lot of stuff, and like I said, it's a lot of attention to detail within the killings themselves. And there's a really good scene. There's a really good interrogation scene, like towards the third act of the film, between Father Arlen and Detective Bennett. And Jasicuro, even though he directed it, boy howdy, that guy can act, man. He does a really good job portraying Father Arlen, who is like a very Jekyll and Hyde thing. I don't know if that's what he was going for, but that's what I see as a very Jekyll and Hyde character. During the day he's this father and does his preachings and lives by the book and will say a prayer for you, and then, man, like flipping a switch, like just becomes this completely different guy. I don't know how he did it, man. The interrogation scene, what really stood out to me in that interrogation scene is that he's able to go from Father Arlen to this psycho, I don't know how he did it, man. Like, you just see it come over his face, like just a complete transformation. And I'm not talking like CGI prosthetics or anything like that, just a complete different demeanor in that single just look on his face. And it was like, damn, that's a hard thing for any actor to do. And this guy just went from Father Arlen to complete psycho, and he didn't have to do it like all brash and out of the blue, and he's not yelling, he's not screaming. He's just that change in his eyes, that change in his face was amazing. And there's another really good scene with him where he's just preaching at night, just for preaching for the sake of preaching, and like yelling at nobody in the church, but he is, going on about justice being served and just preaching to the world, I guess, of what he's going to be doing. And again, like when I first saw it, I was like, is that the father? Is that even the same guy? Like it was amazing. That was a standout performance by far. Really, really incredibly well done. And their screen chemistry, kind of going back and forth with like this cat and mouse type game, was incredible. And like I said, they both did a great job portraying those characters, and the screen chemistry in those scenes, especially that interrogation scene, was money. It was money. I really don't have a whole lot of complaints about this movie. It was pretty damn entertaining to watch, and it was really well done. My biggest complaint, really my only negative connotation with this film, is you have Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle is in this film, but he is not in this film very long, and he doesn't do anything. I don't know if that was... I don't know if they just got him for the namesake, because Kurt Angle's name, I mean, he's, U.S. Olympian, he's been WWE, he's been a wrestler his whole freaking life, so that name does come with some gravitas to have somebody like Kurt Angle in your movie. But my biggest thing is if you have somebody like Kurt Angle in your movie, don't waste him. Like, the dude, I mean, wrestling is scripted, okay? It's not fake, okay? So don't take that the wrong way. These guys really go out there and sometimes really hurt themselves and bang themselves up. And Kurt Angle will tell you he wrestled with a broken freaking neck. That was a real broken neck. That was a real wrestling match. That happened during the Olympics. Either way, when you have somebody as talented as Kurt Angle, because wrestling is scripted, he's got acting chops. He's had to do the promos over the years. He's had to film stuff live. He's obviously still very good shape. He can still wrestle. He could probably do a couple of stunts. and you just kind of wasted him, unfortunately. He looked like, for a shimmering moment, it looked like it was going to be a cool character, but he was quickly dispatched, and that was the end of Kurt Angle's character. And that's not anything against Kurt Angle, and it's not really against anybody in particular. I don't know if it was specifically written that way. I don't know, if Kurt was just trying to get into the movie to do a favor. It could be 100 different things. But if you have somebody like Kurt Angle in your film, don't waste him on nothing. His character didn't really add anything to the film. He wasn't really a plot point in any way, shape, or form. It was just another hapless victim. And it's a shame because it was Kurt Angle, And to be honest with you, when you have somebody like Doug Bradley, if you're shooting for that independent horror icon type thing, you already have Doug Bradley. You already have a name that kind of brings a little bit of gravitas to your film. So you don't really need to add anybody extra just for the sake of it. So that was my only negative thing about that. You had Kurt Angle and you didn't really use Kurt Angle. So other than that, the film's a very solid film. It really is. I don't know why it came through the Indie Horror Junkie Gmail for review. I wouldn't really call this a horror film. It's more of a thriller, but there's not a lot of blood or gore or anything like that, and there really isn't anything that's horror related. But nonetheless, I'm glad they sent it. It was a great watch. I highly recommend it. If you can find it on a streaming platform, it's starting to make its ways out into the streaming world. So if you can find it, definitely sit down and watch it. It's a good movie. Quick 90-minute run, nothing too enthralling, but just a very good execution of a collection of storylines that come together as one good storyline. We're not breaking any new ground with the storyline in and of itself, but solid storyline, solid acting, great production quality. It's a good execution of a movie. So top-notch production on everything. So high praise, high praise. It was a really good movie. If I had to give it a rating, I'd say 7 out of 10 easily. That's definitely something I'd watch again for sure. So great job to everybody. Good job to Michael Ferry for writing it. Great job from Jazz on directing it and acting in it. Very cool to see Doug Bradley doing something that's not, his character's not Pinhead. He was Hellraiser for so long. It was such a disappointment when Netflix came out with that other one. That's a different video for a different day. So guys, like, subscribe, and comment to my YouTube channel. Check me out on Facebook and Instagram. Go find Thy Will Be Done. Check it out. Let me know what you guys think. And I'll see everybody in the next video.